Hello, Roberts Kindergarten. It's Miss Gass with this week's science lesson, and I'm pretty excited about this one. So I hope you guys are too. So last week I read you guys the book From Seed to Plant by Gail Gibbons, and we learned about how seeds grow into plants. Remember, we learned how seeds come in all different shapes and sizes, and then we learned how seeds become the same kind of plant that they came from, and everything they need to grow into that plant is stored inside them, right? And then they eventually grow with soil and water and the warmth of the sun. They grow roots and then a shoot, which will turn into a stem and grow leaves, and they will eventually grow into a plant that will have a flower that will then either turn into a fruit or a pod, which will produce more seeds so that the cycle can continue. So now we are going to try this experiment ourselves, and we are going to plant our very own mini garden. So if we were at school, you guys would be doing this with your friends. Since we're not at school, you have a choice. If you have materials to do this at home, I would love for you to plant your own plant at home. But if you don't, I'm going to plant one today, and we are going to observe it and watch it as it grows. So we'll check in with our garden and watch it as it grows, and we're going to use these pages to record our observations of our mini garden as it grows. So I have a bunch of seeds for you guys to look at here. Hold on, let me just. So I wanted to just show you some different kinds of seeds that you may recognize. Some of them are seeds that we eat, like beans. Beans are a kind of seed that we eat. They come from a pod. And also corn. It's another kind of seed that we eat if you eat popcorn or corn chips. And then there are sunflower seeds. That's this kind right here. These little guys are caraway seeds. Those are on seedy kinds of bread. And then some people eat sunflower seeds that look like this, or pumpkin seeds that look like that. So those are a bunch of different kinds of seeds. You see that they come in all different shapes and sizes. So we are going to be planting 3 different types of seeds today in our mini garden. And when I say mini garden, I mean mini garden. I'm using a salad container for our planting today. Okay, so it's pretty small, but what I like about it is that it's clear, so that when the roots start growing, we'll be able to observe the roots through the clear sides. So we're going to be growing 3 different types of plants, and one of them is something else that a lot of teachers have been talking about this week. Do you guys know what this is? You recognize that maybe you have in your salad? So we are going to be growing lettuce. We are also going to be growing beans. And then the third type of seed we are going to be growing is this one. I don't know if you guys have ever had those before. They are a little bit spicy, so I know a lot of kids don't necessarily like to eat them, but I do. They're very tasty. These are called radishes, and this part is the root, and it grows under the ground. And then the top of the radish is green like that. So these plants are going to grow in different ways, which is why we're choosing them to observe them, because plants all grow differently. And I'm going to show you what these seeds look like. Okay, here are our bean seeds. We are going to be planting 2 of these because they can grow pretty big, so we want to give them enough space. This is what radish seeds look like, pretty small and kind of round. We're going to plant 4 of those in our garden. And then here are the lettuce seeds. You're going to notice they're really tiny. So you kind of sprinkle lettuce seeds because they're so small. And then if they're too close together, when they start to grow, then you can kind of weed them out so they have more space to grow. Okay, so before I start planting, I need to think about my plan and what my seeds need. So I know from our Gail Gibbons book, and from planting seeds before, if you've done it, that my seed is going to need soil and water and the warmth of sun. I also noticed in this book that when you plant seeds, it's helpful to make a little sign to mark where they are so you remember once they start growing. So I did do that. I made some little tags to put in my garden. One for beans, one for lettuce, and one for radish. And then I did a little bit more research. This is another Gail Gibbons book that she wrote all about vegetables we eat, and all of the plants that we are growing are vegetables. So I looked through this book to see how different vegetables grow. And I noticed that the bean plants over here, they grow up and they twist around, and it looks like they need a lot of space to grow. So for my beans, I'm going to want to leave a lot of space in my garden. I also noticed that in lots of gardens, they plant the seeds in straight rows. So I think I might use that in my plan as well. And then the other resource I need to use is there's actually directions on the back of seed packets that you get in the store. And that gives you clues about how deep you should plant the seeds, and how much water to give them, and what time of year you should plant them. We're planting ours inside, so we don't have to worry so much about that stuff. So I made a plan. I'm going to show it to you. Okay, here's my plan. So this rectangle is my mini garden container, and I decided I'm going to put the beans on this side kind of spaced apart from each other so they have enough room to get big. And then those lettuce seeds that I'm going to sprinkle are going to go in a line in the middle. And then my 4 radish seeds are going to go on the other side across the garden. I will put labels for my sticks, and I also took a little bit of a note here next to each of my labels to remind me what I read on the back of my seed packets about how deep I should plant the seeds in the soil. All right, so let's get planting. Are you guys ready? Okay, here's my soil all ready to go. I got this from my gardening bin outside. If you are planting at home, you're going to want to try and find some garden soil. The soil that you find on the street or in the park can definitely work, but sometimes it's too rocky. So I'm going to start with my beans. There's 2 holes, and the beans are the ones that are going to go pretty deep. They're going to go about that deep on my finger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my finger down into the soil until it gets about that deep, and then take it out. And there's my hole. And then I'm going to put another one down into the soil about that deep to my second knuckle, and take it out. Okay, I'm going to drop my bean in one hole and in the other hole. And I'm not actually going to cover them up yet because I just want to make sure I get all my seeds in there before I cover them up. Okay, the lettuce seeds, these teeny tiny little ones, they go down not so deep in the soil. And so I'm actually not going to make a hole in the soil. I'm going to just make a really little line with my finger across the top of the soil. Okay, just like a little indent because they really don't go down very deep. And I'm going to take my lettuce seeds and I'm going to sprinkle them down in the line. Okay, let's see, can you see those down in there? See those little seeds? Okay, and then finally I'm going to do my radishes on the other side. So I'm going to make 4 holes for my radishes. They're going to go down just about half as far to like my first knuckle as the other ones. So make 4 holes. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that one's kind of up against the, I'm gonna put that one there, and then I'm gonna actually move this one over a little bit. There. There. Okay, here go the radish seeds. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now it's time to cover them up. So I'm gonna very carefully cover up my holes. Very gently. And what's the last thing I need? Last thing I need is going to be some water. So I've got my watering can here, and I learned from the Eric Carle book, The Tiny Seed, that we don't want to drown the seeds. We just want to get them wet so that that seed coat can open, can soften, and then open and let the beginnings of the plant come out. Now I'm gonna check my garden every day to make sure that the soil is not soaking wet, but pretty moist. All right, so that's my plant. All right, guys, so I put my little labels in so that I'm gonna remember where I planted things, so that when I observe what is growing or not growing, I'll know which plant is which. All right, so if you have materials at home to grow something yourself, and you can find those beans from your cabinet in your kitchen, you can grow those. It helps to soak your beans overnight or for a couple of hours. That helps that seed coat soften up, but it still works if you do it like this. So if you decide to plant something at home, make a plan. Okay, and then remember to label where you put things so you remember where it is. You might just decide to just plant one bean in a cup, and you can use a cup that, you know, a paper cup or a plastic cup. It's really cool if it's a plastic cup, because then you can observe the roots. But next week we're going to check in, and we're going to observe what has happened to our little mini garden. So you don't even have to plant one at home. You can observe the one I made for us to use together. All right, so next week we'll check in and we'll see if we have any sprouts or roots, what is happening with our garden.